The problem with betting on any sports event is that the odds are stacked against you. They're constructed in such a way that you will lose money in the long term. However, if you make an effort to understand exactly what the odds are, then you can actually turn that situation completely on its head. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video. I've been successfully betting and trading for over 2 decades. If you want more videos like this and you want me to describe more of what I do, then give us a like. If you want to talk to like-minded people, visit the Betangel forum where you can do exactly that, but also visit our website where you can download a free trial of Betangel. So when we're looking to win money by betting on a sport of some sort, very often we use the analogy of a coin toss because it's a great way of explaining how odds are created and the chance of something happening. So let's do that here, and we will align it with a sport that is very, very similar. You'll learn more about that in a second. But basically, when we toss a coin, when that coin goes flying through the air and it lands one way or the other, it could land on heads and it could land on tails. And what we're saying there is if we've bet on heads, we've got a 1 in 2 chance of that occurring. We've bet on heads, there's 1 head, there's 2 possible outcomes, it's a 1 in 2 chance. If we do a little bit of maths and go 1 divided by 2, then it says 50% to us. There's a 50% chance of us getting a head or a tails right. So how would we not lose if we were betting on heads and tails? Well, of course, we would bet on both outcomes, basically, because there's a 100% chance that it will be heads or tails. And bookmakers use this against you because the way that they create odds, they do it unfairly. If we looked at a sport where there were just 2 possible outcomes, where there was a head and a tails, then of course they would have to create odds that equaled 100% because we know that it must end up heads or tails. However, that's not the case. That's not the way that they work. And the best example that I can give you of this, especially as I'm recording this video, is of a tennis market. Because when we look at tennis, basically we have player A could win, player B could win. It's a heads or a tails scenario. There's a 100% chance of either playing winning. However, the bookmakers absolutely do not give you a 100% chance of winning, and that's how they make their money. So you can see here I'm looking at a tennis match. It's the Australian Open Women's Final, and I'm looking at a website called Odds Portal. And the reason that I'm doing that is on the right-hand side here, not only can you see the odds, but you can see the payout. You can see the percentage below 100% that these bookmakers are offering. The further you get away from that 100%, the more money you're effectively giving to the bookmaker. So this particular site is quite useful for having a look at that. And you can see there's a variety of different percentages here, but all of them are below 100%. So hopefully, as you can see there, if you basically go to a bookmaker, they will offer you heads and tails at less than a 100% chance, despite the fact that it definitely has a 100% chance of occurring. If you bet on heads and tails, you will lose about 5% of whatever stake you put in to the bookmaker, because that's the way they've priced the market. They basically priced up a 100% chance at less than 100%. And the same thing occurs across a range of sports, but the only reason that we've chosen tennis here is because it fits well with our coin toss analogy, a heads or a tails, player A, player B. So how do you overcome this? Because if you go into a bookmaker and say, oh, I see you're offering odds of 180 on this tennis player to win, but actually, can I back them at 205 or 210 or 250 or something? They will just laugh in your face. You do not have a choice with a traditional bookmaker about what price you choose to take. However, if you go onto a betting exchange, you can do something clever, which is you can actually offer odds to the market. You basically put some odds into the market and you wait for them to get matched. And the reason they would get matched in a tennis match is as the tennis match gets underway, the odds start to meander and move around, and that will get those odds matched at some particular point within the underlying match. It's not risk-free. However, you'll be surprised how frequently and how well this particularly works. But basically, if you go onto a betting exchange, if you back 2 players at odds above 2, you'll make money. And on the flip side, if you lay 2 players below odds of 2 and they get matched, then you'll make money as well. All you need to do is go into the market and offer those odds. And this is something that I do on a regular basis, but there's a little bit of thought that goes into this particular process. And that's what I'm going to show you next. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to use a staking method of lay by liability. I'm saying basically that I'm willing to lose £250 if this trade doesn't work out. And that's what lay by liability means. You're nominating how much you're willing to lose, basically. If I go in here and I lay at 185, Betangel will do the calculation for me to tell me how much it needs to put on for that £250 basically to be the case. So you can see here it's put a stake in of 294 and 12 pence at a liability of 250. And we can tell that, you know, the price that we're targeting here is going to be sort of around 170-ish or thereabouts. Or, you know, we can pitch it at roughly the same price if we want to, but we may actually miss out there. Because if we say, where is 185 going to occur over here, we can sort of say, well, it's going to occur at, you know, a breakup, or it could occur, I mean, can you see what I'm trying to do here? I'm looking through Tennis Trader, I'm looking at the game matrix, and I'm saying, when is this likely to occur given certain scenarios? And like I said, we don't know who's going to win the toss at this moment in time, but we can actually see the scenarios where all of this is likely to occur. So you'd pitch your other order in or around at that level. So if we pitch our order, I'm just trying to think where we would best put it. It's going to be somewhere in this sort of range around here, but I'm looking at the lack of money basically available at this particular price. So if we pitch our order in at about 176, we can actually again select £250, we'll say 176, and then you can see we've got the order sat there waiting. Now, because I'm doing this before the match has started, if I just bring this up here, you'll see this is an unmatched bet, and if I just keep that unmatched bet in the market from there, then basically the players will come on court in about half an hour. They'll start the match. If we get a break or a mini break against Sabalenka at some point in the first set, we'll very likely come down and touch that particular closing position, and at that point I'll bring up the screenshot and I'll show you exactly what that looks like at that particular moment in time. It may not make sense for you if you've never done this before, but we'll see in a bit exactly what it looks like when both these orders get matched. So let me summarize what we've done here and why. We've picked on this match because it's a competitive match. The odds are very, very close together. They're almost at 50-50. And this means that from a trading perspective, when the match gets underway, the odds are going to fly around all over the place. If you do this on a match that's uncompetitive, you're not going to see the same sort of effect. So what we're trying to achieve here is we're actually going to lay both players below 2, because we know if we can lay 2 players below 2, we will make money. If we can back 2 players above 2, we will make money. So on this occasion, we've decided to lay, and we're laying with a liability of £250. The reason that we're using a lay by liability is so that we cap our potential loss. If everything goes wrong, that is our maximum loss. But when things start to go right, we basically do the same thing again, but on the other side. And you can repeat that process as many times as you like through a tennis match, because you're saying your maximum liability, your biggest loss is £250, but your potential profit is unlimited. Now, in theory, it is limited to some extent, but can you understand where we're coming from here? We're basically capping our losses, but our potential profit could be many times that. And then what actually happens during the match is that when the state that we discussed, which was basically a break, occurs, then the other side of that bet will get filled, and our money is sat there waiting for that position to be filled. And if we look at what happened in this match and we look at the chart of the match, we can see that that is exactly what happened. And when both those bets were matched, because we laid 2 selections below 2 in a 2 selection market, we were guaranteed to make some money. So to summarize what we've done here, if you go into a 2 selection market and you back at odds higher than odds of 2 and get both of those bets matched, you'll make money. If you go in and you lay 2 selections at odds lower than 2, you'll make money. But of course, this relies upon those positions being matched. And this is why we've chosen to do this on tennis, because when you look at a tennis match, especially a competitive tennis match, then the odds will move around quite dramatically, and you stand a really good chance of getting both those orders filled. Now, of course, there are situations where that will not occur, but fundamentally speaking, tennis is one of the sports where that is much more likely to occur. But if you look at other 2 selection events like cricket, you'll find that that is the case in there as well. Darts, all these sort of things. Hopefully you get the gist of where I'm coming from on this particular situation. But what we did on tennis is we used some of the specialist features in Betangel to identify where we felt that that could occur and why. And then as we put our positions into the market, on this occasion we put 2 lay positions into the market. We did that and we laid it by liability, so that kept our options open in terms of how we wanted to trade going forward. We could basically lay something to liability that would allow us to cap the maximum loss that we could make, and then what we choose to do from there is entirely up to us, because we know that the maximum potential loss that we have is £250. But of course we could trade in and out of that particular tennis match continuously, and that would amplify the potential returns. But on this occasion, what I wanted to show you really was just that start of that particular process, and to show you how, if you can successfully lay 2 things at odds of less than 2 and get both of them matched, then you will be guaranteed to make money. And that is simply because we're making those odds and those percentages work in our favour. Anyhow, I hope that that video has been useful for you.